Welcome to the Minnesota Rovers Tuesday evening presentation. Minnesota Rovers is an outdoors club based in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Our members organize trips that range from 1 hour to 2 weeks in Minnesota or further afield. Examples of our activities include hiking, biking, backpacking, skiing, snowshoeing, paddling, and rock climbing. We also organize conservation and trail clearing trips. Our members have experience and skills in many outdoor activities, so if you want to learn a new outdoor activity, we can probably help you. For more information, go to mnrovers.org. Now let's move on to this week's presentation.
Tonight, you're here to hear from Katherine Barton on building connection and belonging while enjoying the outdoors. Katherine Barton's career has been dedicated to training people to connect and commit to one another meaningfully. She has done strategic planning in higher education, government, nonprofits, and business. And recently, she has developed a series of classes that focus on aging, spirituality, and how to manifest meaningful visions as individuals and communities. So please join me now in welcoming Katherine Barton.
Thank you. So thanks for coming. I have to admit, I know this is not like a lot of Rovers presentations. We will not, I don't want to have any great pictures of bears or exotic places in Alaska, actually. This is really a little different kind of presentation, and it actually came out of the strategic planning effort as the Rovers began to look at the whole notion of, a lot of us are getting older. Well, everybody's getting older, but some of us, it seems like more quickly than others. How can we remain a organization that actually welcomes people and people feel a strong sense of belonging in it? And so that was the reason why I was asked to do a presentation on this particular topic. I'm not a therapist. I'm not someone that does individual work like that, but I have done a lot of work with organizations that want to work better together. And I've done a lot of work in that area. And so that's kind of what I'll be coming from as I talk with you tonight. And actually just kind of a lot of internet research about how other people are doing it, other people that are struggling maybe with this particular topic of belonging. Or a lot of organizations are talking about this, both in terms of their workplace or individuals. So that's what we'll be doing. I'm going to really invite you to interrupt me tonight and speak about things. You're on a couple of screens, so if I don't see your hand, or you can have the little yellow hand at the bottom, or you can actually wave your hand. That would work as well too. So anyway, just inviting you to participate, because I can't really do a thing on belonging by myself. So anyway, so that's what we're going to do tonight. Okay, so I genuinely would like to know, my first question is, and I really do want to know, what actually brought people here? What were you sort of hoping to get out or thinking we would talk about tonight? Because as I would say, this is not kind of what we usually talk about at Rovers. Would anybody like to share that, or actually put that in the chat if you prefer not to speak?
Katherine, this is Melissa Brown. I've met you on a couple of trips. I think I came tonight because we are trying to be more participatory in Rovers, a broader bunch of people participating rather than the same 20%. And I thought it would be interesting to hear what you have to say about creating community.
Thanks, Melissa. And I just noticed—
My name is Steve Dunlop, and I just wanted to say that although I'm here for the first time with Rovers, I did see the notes about your presentation and was looking forward to it, mainly because I've been involved in trying to build online community in a lot of different places on the internet, Wikipedia among probably being the best known. And I'm going to be intrigued to hear what you have to say.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else want to share?
This is Chris. I've done a lot of trips where I've guided them, and I like the community that creates a lot of longer trips. And then I've done a lot of long solo trips, and I'm getting to the point where the solo trips aren't as fun as they used to be. and I'm wanting to reconnect, but not necessarily guide the trip all the time.
Great, thank you.
Catherine, I'll just say from a trip coordinator's perspective, I was curious to know what I might take out of this, to help people connect when I coordinate a trip.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, I thought it might be just kind of fun. I have a one question poll here. And I just would like to know. Okay. And okay, this is very strange. Okay, I'm having a technical difficulty here. So it looks like we're not going to have the poll tonight. But I was really, it really had to do with, the question had to do with how important is belonging to you in terms of being part of Rovers? I mean, if you were on a scale from 1 to 5, and we were doing a poll, I'd like you to just think about that, how important that is to you. Is it way up there, or is it kind of, maybe not as important to you? That maybe the outdoor stuff is, the activity themselves is really not the people. So just sit with that question as we're speaking tonight, because that's kind of the crux of actually one of the things we're going to be talking about. So, okay, so this is actually what I'm going to talk about tonight. What's sort of the current climate of belonging? Where are we at in terms of a nation? That obviously everything that the social climate does impact us. What does belonging look like? What are your personal experiences with belonging? What for you is belonging? What does work well? How are people coming together and belonging today? And just a little bit about how Rovers has done well, and maybe what some of the challenges that are belonging in this organization. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. So I've got just a little bit I wanted to share, and you're going to have to pardon me. Some weird things happening with my screen, so I can't see my own screen here. Okay. So anyway, this is this quote about loneliness, and we're being in a national public health crisis. And you can see the quote that's up here. There's reported that the issue with the disconnection is as dangerous as smoking really a whole bunch of cigarettes. So we're kind of in this social climate of people really being lonely. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the issues that people have seen, particularly in younger people, but also I recently saw an AARP poll that 3 out of 5 older people felt like they would put themselves as lonely. So we are in a kind of this whole social milieu in this country and maybe the world where people just feel like they're very disconnected from one another. So as a social group, this is going to be one of the places where people were coming to actually to deal with the lack of connection. So it becomes we're not an important part of ourselves, but an important part of society, in that we are actually doing a real service when we provide a place where people could actually belong. Okay, and if I get this out of the way, I might be able to read my screen. All right, I'm going to just keep on going. So this is kind of quoting some experts about, and since I can't read my screen, I can't read what it says. But if you can just read that yourself, this is something from Mayo Clinic, and it just kind of it talks about the importance of belonging and how it actually directly relates to managed stress. So maybe just take a minute and read that. Okay. So anyway, this is obviously coming from a major healthcare provider talking about the importance and how the resilience and the belonging dramatically affects physical and mental health. And I just got a few other people I wanted to quote here too. Brene Brown, who many of you may be familiar with, and a lot of research on connection and vulnerability. Belonging requires that we change. It doesn't require that we change who we are. It requires that we be who we are. So just talking about how belonging, creating a place where people can actually feel very comfortable with themselves is one of the things that she's talking about here. that this is from a psychiatrist and researching, one of the most important things about being a human being is feeling like you belong. If you get signals from your parents or your classmates you don't belong, they have a profound impact on your mental and physical health. So, and thinking about being a social group, an organizational group, and with a lot of people that come together, the things that we love, maybe to think about what are the things that we might be doing to make them feel really a part of them, or not letting them feel that way. And then this is from our writer, Bell Hooks. I dreamed about a culture of belonging. I still dream that dream. I contemplate what our lives would be like if we knew how to cultivate awareness, to live mindfully and peacefully. If we learned habits, and those are my underlining, of being that would bring us closer together, that would help us build beloved community. And I underline the word habits because there's a lot of literature right now about building that where real change happens both individually and in groups is building a really positive habit. If you have the habit of greeting people or making maybe extending yourself to someone, that habit can be part of the culture of the organization and makes a dramatic effect. It can have a real big impact on how actually people feel about the organization, how they relate to themselves and one another. So maybe as we go through this, thinking about what habits do we have as rovers that do foster belonging. And then this is from the Center for the Study of Social Policy, because culture is not seen if there is no attention and effort to create a culture of belonging. The organization will continue to operate as it is, despite efforts to implement equitable policies and practices. I think that comes to kind of the classic thing that the days that I was doing organizations, thinking that you could kind of write a policy and that things would change. I think most of us know that that's not what happens. That a real if you have an intent about belonging or having people feel closer, just a statement about it is never enough. It really, a culture comes alive and a community becomes alive when people are somehow finding a way to actually share those certain kinds of behaviors that feel really good to people and feel welcoming to people in a sort of a structured kind of way. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how those things actually happen in a helpful and a good way, and what are some ways that we might be able to go ahead and do that.
Catherine, can I just interrupt for one quick second?
Yes.
Maybe you're going to address this
Do.
later.
Yes.
But one of the chats here is if you could define what you mean by belonging.
Okay, thank you. We're just about to do that.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And for some reason, I'm not able to see the chat right at this moment. I'm trying to think where it is. Oh, I see it now. I'm sorry. Okay. Great, thank you for that. And thanks for bringing that up, Stacy. So I'm going to go back to, this is a really old model, but it's been around forever, and probably you've heard of good old Abraham Maslow, probably the most popular psychological model ever in history. And he had five things that, five very kind of pillars of being being human, actually. And so the bottom, of course, was physiological, basically food and so forth. And then you went up one, it was physical safety, and then love and belonging is right in the middle. And friendship, intimacy, a family sense of connection, acceptance, and trust. And then above that is a sense of self-esteem, respect, and what he calls self-actualization. So I hope that helps a little bit. A feeling of connection, friendship, intimacy, acceptance, and trust. I think those are some of the kinds of things. And maybe would there be other words that some of the rest of you would use to describe belonging for you?
This is Melissa. I would say acknowledgement. Like if you come to a meeting and we, different people in the meeting acknowledge you, you're recognized, you're seen.
Great.
You're
Yes.
talked to, you're included.
Yes, absolutely. Very good words. Thank you. Yeah. So that's maybe a little general definition we can work with. So then in thinking about, belonging activities, some factors that are going to influence belonging, and like there's not like a way to be or do belonging. Some of us, so we all know about, if you probably have tested over the years, whether you're an introvert or you're extrovert, you're somebody who more strongly kind of keeps to yourself. Maybe speaking and reaching out to others is not your strongest attribute. And those of you that are extroverts, maybe it's an easier, more natural thing for you to be welcoming to people, to speak to new people. I'm an introvert myself, and I know that relationships are not as easy for me as they are for some other people. And that we all have natural tendencies, skills, and attributions that are going to put us different and having easier to feel belonging, and maybe having better, maybe your skills are naturally more stronger or not as strong to belong in various groups. Other thing about belongings, maybe the time of life you're in. I think when I first came to Rovers, I thought everybody there had just been divorced. But that was one, it was divorced women. I kept meeting them all over the place. And, when people get divorced or they have a change or they're widowed, as I'm meeting more and more people now, you're going to have a different desire and need for belonging. You're going to be looking for things. You're going to be looking for opportunities. When you retire, probably you're going to be looking for more opportunities. All of a sudden, you've got more time. If you're a young parent and staying up with kids at 3 o'clock, 3-year-olds, maybe you're belonging to an external group. It's not going to be as important, but those things are going to change. If you have connections in other communities, like I know I did not grow up here, and I'm always amazed at the number of people that are still having lunch with their preschool friends. You may have some real strong family connections. Maybe if you're part of a recent student group, you'll have some more. But those are going to be different for everybody. Our needs for community are going to be different. And then maybe particularly looking at Rovers, your physical abilities and interests. The people that can do 25-mile biking tours is not everybody. Backpackers is not everybody. Some people have huge physical abilities, and those of us who are getting older, our physical abilities are changing. So that's also going to be, it's going to influence very greatly what belonging is to you, or what kinds of belonging you're going to be looking for. So now I would like to get into this a little bit, and I would like us to talk to one another, because I think as in any, I think if you're going to look at what a culture is, what you value about it, about what you would like to change or what you would like to envision for it, I think you have to have a reference point for what we actually mean by that. So I'd like to, so I'm going to just model what I'm going to ask you to do. So I want you to think about a past experience where I had connection with a group that felt really, really great, that I felt like I belonged. And it doesn't have to be the Rovers, it could be anything. I'd like you to talk about what was the situation, what was the atmosphere, and what was the leadership. And as I was thinking about this week, there's one that came to mind that was kept coming to the top of my mind was, I was actually at a trip. I did a European trip last summer with a group of people, and I knew several of the people. But I had a very strong sense of belonging in this group. And there were several things I think that made that happen. One was throughout the week, we had several very kind of, we did some personal sharing with one another. And they were structural personal sharing events where we talked about things that were really personally important to us. We had, and the trip, I also want to say the trip was really imperfect. There was a lot of problems with this trip. They were dragging us across France, and, we were in different cities, and we had, screw ups with transportation and so forth. But we had we had several throughout, not every day by any means, but we had several events where we had this personal sharing. There was a very strong leadership of the group, I noticed, that really were personally seeing to each one of us to make sure if we had any issues, that were asking how we were doing personally, that really talked to us in a very positive, accepting way, that they actually valued our own experience very specifically. And so we not only felt belonging as an individual, but the group felt like it belonged to each other. It felt like it belonged together. And a lot of it had to do, I think, with the leadership's very, very intentional talking to people and, checking up on people, and really made people feel like they were valuable and important. But also, I think the structured activities we had, I think also helped us feel like we were one group. So this is what I'm going to ask you to do. And I know we don't do this a lot in this, but I'd like you to give this a try. I'm going to put you in groups of 3. And I'd like you to just share an experience that was really positive. Because I don't think you can really build a vision of belonging until you kind of have in your head some reference points of things that you liked personally. It doesn't ever work to change, to have other people's other ideas about what changes if you don't agree with them or they don't resonate with you personally. So it would be great to just kind of build a palette of that. So is everybody clear about what I'm asking you to do? Just to share an experience and maybe kind of with some detail with one another. We okay with that? Okay, so I'm going to put you in groups of 3, and it's to be about 10 minutes. And I will warn you every 3 minutes so you can change people. And just kind of enjoy each other and just share something that you found was good and that worked well. And that will kind of build a little bit of a kind of a palette for ourselves to go on to the rest of our time together. Okay, so most people are back now, or kind of on the way. So thank you for doing that. I know for some people it's not the most favorite thing to do. But I really would like to know some of the things that came up, that things that you shared or the people in your group shared that you thought that were just kind of cool. Maybe new things or interesting things in terms of what ways people had feelings of belonging in groups. Who would be willing to talk a little bit about that?
Well, one thing I just thought of at the very end of our talk was that during COVID, I was feeling really disconnected and kind of like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to talk to? And et cetera. And then we had this weekly Zoom meetings, which the Rovers came up with. And I wish I'd bought Zoom stock. Anyway, but no, but yeah, it was really, really helped me, helped, kind of get through the COVID stuff. And so it was, I felt like I belonged somewhere and we'd chat and, it was fun. It's one of the things I think Rovers have done that have been cool. So
Great. Okay.
maybe you feel connected somewhere. So
I can
You know-
throw something in there, Joni. For me anyway, and we talked about this a bit, was knowing that I'm making a contribution and that my contribution is appreciated and that other people are teaching me stuff and I'm teaching them stuff and we are integrating our own, we are creating something together by all of us contributing. It's like a camp out and you're all planning to do activities together or something like that.
Was
But
there
feeling that my contribution is welcome and appreciated.
so Joni, are you talking about a specific example, or do you have a general feeling with Rovers that you do feel appreciated?
I do with that, but actually my example for our little chat was I go to song circles. I've been going to those for about 20 years. I learned a lot of music and I have learned harmonies and now I teach other people the harmonies that I know. And I feel very appreciated and very welcome. And we always say hello with and goodbye with hugs. So I feel really warm there. But
Great.
Rovers are like that too.
Great, thank you.
Catherine, this is Melissa. In our group, somebody talked about going on a rover trip by themselves for the first time. And they happened to know someone. They discovered they knew someone in the group, but what was also important and helpful was the trip coordinator was a facilitator. In the beginning of the mornings, they would talk about, okay, what's everybody doing? And they would work to facilitate people connecting with each other, whether it's on a hike or whatever was going on that day. And the person in our group was, that helped them feel connected and participatory.
Great, thank you. Great example.
Catherine, I can kind of chime in here. In our group discussion, the examples that we had actually focused around specific trips that we had done. And so my example was going on a trip to Germany, which turned out was with some Rover people. And there were 4 of us that traveled around, and we got to be a really close-knit group. And then also I was on a canal trip a couple of years ago where we just ended up being a really close-knit group that operated as a very good team. And then the other folks I was with were talking about their own experience. So I don't know if they want to chime in or not, but it was activity oriented that brought us together and made us a real team.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to share anything about what came up in your small group?
Well, I had an interesting experience with someone else in the group where I explained a trip I'd been on where there was a clear leader and there were some expectations set and a time frame and something like that. And the other person said they preferred for things to just sort of proceed organically, as best I interpret it, without a particular leader, and that everybody would be on a totally, you know, equal and free footing. So I found that interesting.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because people are going to see the need for belonging very, very differently. And I think it's just good to go that both of those things have value and are value to different people. So thank you for sharing that divergence. Anybody else? Well, next, this is kind of a this is a statement here. It's not just spending time together, and this comes out a lot of the literature, particularly for the workplace, where people feel like let's just so let's all go and have some drinks together, and we'll all be a team. We'll feel better. It's not necessarily true. What a lot of the stuff written talks a lot about some of the more specific things that actually make people build a sense of belonging. And this is kind of a laundry list of a lot of different things. So one is new member onboarding, and this came from an association, a article about how you got associations to feel more a part of people to feel part of an association, and a very intentional structure that actually where it welcomes people, but it also builds values. It builds people's common mission, people's roles and responsibilities. That tends to actually, when you have kind of a common curriculum for people, it actually has a very positive effect in allowing people to feel like they're actually belonging. Something that everybody's been through, they know what to expect, they know what's valued, what's important. It kind of is a way to kind of immerse people in the culture of the group. Having a welcoming environment, assign people to have various roles and of welcoming people that can be acted out in many, many different ways. Like the facilitator thing that you were just talking about is a good way, but there's also many, many different ways to personally welcome people in an environment. To have a clear purpose and identity in terms of why you're there. I love that the Rovers, we go over that every time in every meeting, why we're here, what we do that's specific to ourselves. And what is it that's unique about us? I think that's a very important part of actually people feeling belonging. This is a laundry list. So meetups, local and online, ways to come together. That also is a great way. And the person was just talking about how the Zoom part has really created a lot of identity for people. Various ways, kinds of celebrations, rewards, and appreciation. There's a lot of volunteer kinds of recognition for people where you recognize a number of hours of service. Jonah, you just talked about how important appreciation was to you, really critical parts of people feeling like they belong, and a way to have interactions and feedback. A very strong part of a lot of groups is having a buddy or a mentor. And I actually have been in a women's group now for 25 years. We're a small group, maybe 15 people at the most. And we've noticed that if a person didn't have even though we're small, we share a lot of very personal things. If people didn't have a mentor or a buddy, they dropped out after a year. Having some sort of a strong assigned personal connection had a lot to do with allowing people to actually be part of a group, become an active part of a group, stay in it, feel comfortable, and just kind of to know the ropes on things that the longer a group exists, the longer a culture is created that often you don't even realize it's there. And we were talking just recently about whether we were going to invite new people in, and there was a long history that somebody went into, and a new member said, I never heard that history. So the buddy and mentor can often be a really critical part of making people feel like they belong. Niche groups. I was specifically thinking in this one about, and we have kind of a lot of niche groups in Rovers. We have the bikers, we have the rock climbers, we have the backpackers. But there may be one other group that I've really been impressed with, and many faith communities do this. They have kind of they all have different names, but it's kind of a dinner group that meets once a month, usually 6 or 8 families. And they get together once a month. They're kind of homies. that we meet to get, this is, if we have 500 people in our congregation, we get together with this group once a month and we feel special. We feel this person, they know they know my family, they know what's going on with me, and they've found it very powerful to holding a larger group together. So that's another thing. Now, volunteering, I know we have nothing but volunteers in Rovers. But what is interesting, and a person that I have spoken to is a member of another outdoors club in Wisconsin, and a stipulation of membership is that you will lead 2 activities a year. Now, it's not, there's not like activity police either. They're not going to police you about whether you've done it, but that's the expectation of when you come in, is that you're going to lead a couple of activities. And as I think one of you was saying earlier in our time together, that we have a tremendous volunteering, but a lot of people are doing a whole lot of it. And maybe there's a lot of people that probably could step up, that maybe if they were invited more specifically, they might actually do that. And the volunteering, embedded in the volunteering is commitment and a belonging piece that can be developed far more regularly. And then the other one is just inclusive and skilled leadership that really has, as part of its stated intent and skill level, to really welcome people in a very deep and authentic way, and which can mean many, many different things. So those are some things. Any comments or additions to a list like that about how you actually support belonging in organizations or in a group like ours? Okay. Well, kind of in the end here. So I'd like to know what you think about how well do we do in terms of belonging? And I actually I actually would like to know what people think about that at this point. What do you think? We talked about them already a little bit tonight. We just talk about that a little bit. What do we think the Rovers does really well? And several of you have already mentioned some of the things. Jonah, you mentioned about being really appreciated in terms of teamwork. Maybe we can just talk about that as a group, and can add that in the chat too, if you like. What do we do really well in terms of belonging in Rovers? Anybody like to talk about that a little bit?
I'll say from my perspective, I haven't been super active, a little bit last year, and then I had a health issue, and then I needed to take a break, and now I'm coming back in. But I think one thing that really stands out and that I really appreciate about Rovers is I always feel like, if I want to go biking, there's going to be bike trips. If I want to go, so there's a multiple different types of trips, but also the skill level of the leaders, I think is really impressive. It's like if somebody's leading a kayak group, they know something about kayaks more than you do. And people are really welcoming. I mean, they're real friendly about wanting to share what they do know with one another. I've never felt intimidated about asking, about any given sport. So.
Great. Thank you, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Other thoughts about what Rover does well in terms of belonging?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I know without the expertise of the leaders like Fran, who is very, very knowledgeable about kayaking, I want to take that on as a new thing to do. And I'm going to be looking to spending more time with her and her trips or her activities. And it's taking me a couple years because that equipment is so expensive. But now I saw that nice white canoe at the beginning of this presentation. I mean, the kayak. And I think I'm going to reserve that. I've got the elevator, the life jacket, and the paddle. I just need the boat now. So it allows me to be more independent and and have more self-confidence in trying something new. Because I know whoever I need to tap for expert advice, and I know there's a wealth of information within this group collectively. So I really like that.
Great, thanks.
One thing I'd like to say is the fact that you are having this discussion is incredibly, I don't know, gratifying, hopeful, and it says a lot about the organization.
Is in what way, Barb?
Oh, in the way that you're sharing the information amongst yourselves, and you're hopefully some other people will outreach or reach out to other people to bring in new members. I think that's part of the welcome and the health of an organization is to have new members. And I think this evening tonight is informing people of their options or their opportunities.
Great, thank you, Barb. So a lot of huge, obviously, benefits and skills in the Rovers in terms of amazing self-organizing. So where are the challenges of welcoming in this of belonging in this organization? And is there anything that's come to your mind that it might be good to give a try of some of the things we've talked about tonight?
When I joined Rovers, is over 20 years ago, we were meeting in person in the same room. And that's really valuable. And we aren't doing that. And I know it's not in our power to do that, but meeting in person is something I really miss. And so the summertime meetings, boy, that is nice, because then we can see each other, we can talk to each other, we can have casual conversations, we can have a presentation and go to the bar together afterwards and just be friends.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We do have that once a month in-person option. And it is really wonderful, just like you say, Joni, to see people talking to each other and giving each other help.
I wish it wasn't so far downtown, because that means I'll be driving through really awful traffic for over an hour. And that's why I haven't come to those. But before, when they were out in the suburbs, I went to the in-person meetings. Just making a pitch. You know.
I live in Plymouth, and I don't know where the in-person meetings are now. I went to one at Como Park, and that's quite a drive. Like I don't know where you live, Barb, but
the one next week is going to be at Hennepin Avenue United Methodist Church. It's just off 94, where Lindale and Hennepin run parallel. It's on the website. The location's on the website if you want to check.
That's closer for me. Yeah.
Just south of Loring Park. So yeah. Yeah, it was as I was talking in the discussions earlier, I was listening to public radio on the way home, and they were talking about high school kids having trouble going back to school after the COVID. So you're talking about things that may have affected us to the negative, maybe, but it's I think trying to get back to that normal kind of way we used to be. It's still a transition, I think, somewhat, and I think like especially high school kids have been having a hard time with that. But yeah, it was kind of an interesting talk on public radios. But yeah, I think like Joni says, getting out and seeing people and get that camaraderie going, it's kind of nice. And sounds like we're going to be doing that, so that's a good thing. So yeah.
Catherine?
This is a good discussion. It's kind of like the pros do, like if you work for a company that's kind of team building things, and it's kind of nice to, get together and hash it out,
Thanks. Maureen, go ahead.
Yeah, when in our breakout, the other person was talking about finding their tribe, and the Rovers is a really big tribe because every type of thing is or many activities are represented. But we have some sub tribes. We have the biking sub tribe and the backpacking sub tribe and the stars sub tribe and there are others. What I personally would like to see, and I think it could help in the tribe formation, is some technological support so that, like, I join Rovers and I click the groups I want to learn about trips. So I don't get all the ones that I'm not interested in, but I do get all the ones that I am interested in, and in the process build some tribe. So that's a technological help, but it's also a bit of a mindset.
Thanks, Maureen. It does clearly, the Rovers is challenged by its success. I mean, we're diverse in terms, we're all around the metro area. We have a lot of people. So that whole business about finding your tribe, I think that's a really great analogy and term for just how you find the people together you really want to belong to and be with. Thank you. Anybody else, it struck you as during our conversation, a step that you thought might be useful to give a try to, that would just kind of increase the belonging in the environment that we're in today?
So something I would like to add is, I think some people complain when we have meetings and stuff that there are cliques in the meetings, which is, I think, very natural because if you know people, you tend to talk to the people you know. But I find it really positive that when I've coordinated hikes and we have a mixed group on the hike, some people I know and some people are new rovers, and we start hiking, it seems like everyone is talking to someone. And especially on a hike, you're not in a big group, so you're only next to one or two people, but everyone seems to be talking to someone. So I would encourage new members who haven't maybe been on a lot of trips to go on a hike, because I think it's a lot easier going on a hike and talking to people than going into a room full of people and talking to people. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Thanks, Barry. Okay, well, anything else anybody wants to share, or this whole topic of belonging, the Rovers? Go ahead.
I will throw one more thing in there. What struck me the very first time I came to Rovers, and it struck me over the years, fun, smiles, laughter, enjoying each other, goofiness, strange things that we do. Like, I don't know, a bunch of us were at Custer State Park in the Black Hills, and we spent hours arranging pine cones so that we could have men rovers in pine cones, and then we posed around it. And for a while, rovers were doing strange things like making displays on beaches of clamshells or whatever to make Minnesota rovers on the beach and submitting those photos. I think maybe we could have who can do the goofiest photo contest or something to bring in some more of that playfulness and that funness and that part where we are kids playing outdoors together. I really love that.
Great. Thank you, Joni.
Yep.
Well, thanks to you all for wholeheartedly participating. Again, I really wasn't sure anybody would come because I didn't have any great pictures of glaciers or rapids or anything like that. Participating in just the well-being of the organization and the very important part of what it means to connect to one another and how we do that to make ourselves healthier and make our group healthier. So thank you so much. And I think that's it and just encourage you to keep thinking about ways that the belonging can increase, because it's obviously such a rich part of their time together. So thanks.
I thought this was great. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Katherine. You've given us a lot to think about, and I will definitely be talking with Jerry Wallace, the president, because I'd like to not I'd like to think about how we as an organization could do more to consciously be welcoming and encouraging that belonging. So thank you.
Thanks for watching this Minnesota Rovers presentation. If you want to see more, please click on the link to our channel or the subscribe button below. Thank you.